February 20th, I'm fighting Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Money Mayweather.
Get up and do the punches. Get up. We rehearsed this. Yeah. Woo! Wait. Do it again, but do it at his level. You would punch him on.
As we know, Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather is officially slated to happen on February 20th, 2021. There haven't been many details released as of this recording, so we still don't know where they're going to fight, how many rounds, what ounce gloves, how long the rounds will be. I mean, all we really do know is who's fighting and the date. Other than that, we've kind of just been waiting to find out more information regarding this bout, but what we do know is that it won't be sanctioned and instead it's an exhibition match, so there's that. Meaning it won't count toward either fighter's records, but other than that, not too much else has been released. And it's likely not due to the fact that things still need to be set in stone, but more so just to continue building hype around the fight. However, I don't think it'll be much of a fight, and assuming Floyd easily handles Logan, what does that mean for the YouTuber? Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, what if Floyd Mayweather ends Logan Paul's YouTube career? Be sure to smash that like button, and let's get into things. Obviously, the general consensus is that Floyd Mayweather is going to absolutely destroy Logan Paul when the two men step in the ring. Even though Logan would appear to have a physical advantage, being taller and heavier than Floyd, it seems where Floyd has Logan beat 50 times over, may I add, and that's 50, not 15, 50 times over, may I add, would be his experience as a boxer. Floyd Mayweather is 50-0 as a boxer professionally, whereas Logan is officially 0-1. Of course, it doesn't count Logan's first match against KSI, where both men wore headgear and it was officially a draw. That also doesn't count the numerous fights Floyd has participated in that don't go on his official boxing record, which includes his most recent bout against Japanese kickboxing star Tenshin Nasukawa, who had an undefeated record of 30-0. Although he didn't have prior boxing experience, you'd think a professional kickboxer at just 20 years old with a 30-0 record would be able to go toe-to-toe with a 40-year-old Mayweather. Yet, after not even a 3-minute round, Floyd would find himself on the winning side, $9 million richer, might I add, which is a pretty nice way to ring in the new year. This fight occurred on New Year's Eve 2018, so now let's bring it back to Logan. He's not 30-0 in any sport. Although he wrestled competitively in high school, wrestling and boxing are two very different sports. But where Logan does have a massive advantage over Floyd, where Tenshin was actually at a disadvantage, would be their physicality. Tenshin Nasukawa weighs about 126 pounds and stands at 5 foot 4 inches tall. Floyd is 5'8 and weighs 154 pounds. Big difference between the two there, and it seems there's a similar difference between Logan and Floyd, with Logan obviously being the one who has the advantage. Compared to Floyd's 5'8", 154 pound frame, Logan stands at 6'2", about 200 pounds. But as previously mentioned, the key difference when comparing these two bouts isn't so much about height and weight as it is experience. And it seems like once again, Floyd is going to be getting into the ring with a boxer who has little to no experience putting on the gloves. Even though Logan has trained for 2 fights, both against fellow YouTuber KSI, I think it's safe to say if a 30-0 kickboxer with no prior experience could only last a round with Floyd, things won't be any easier for Logan. Now, the last thing any of us want is a fight that has the same rules as the Tyson-Roy Jones fight did, with no knockouts, no headshots. We pretty much paid to watch a sparring match. And as fun as it was to see the two go at it, Mike could have easily landed a solid headshot or two on Roy, knocking his lights out. But he didn't, as the rules were clearly stated beforehand. And for those of you wondering if Logan and Floyd will get the same treatment, well, according to the CEO of Fanmio, who is the one putting on the event in the first place, this fight is going to be as real as it gets. While speaking with The Sun, Solomon Engel, CEO and founder of Fanmio, explained, I quote, "I think Floyd is going to have fun with it, but he's taking it very seriously. Floyd trains extensively, and I don't think he's going to go into this fight and not be prepared. He's very excited for the fight. He sees some big opportunities here, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think we all feel this could be a very historical fight and a number of different levels." He went on to explain, I quote, "This is a real fight, and whoever wins, wins. Certainly there could be a knockout, yes. I think it will be a very competitive fight." Now, I don't know if it necessarily be competitive, but I think Logan could surprise people with his ability, and it may not be as easy as a lot of people think it should be for Floyd. That being said, I do still think 100% that Floyd wins, and fairly easily, which may or may not be the end of Logan's boxing career. But would it affect his YouTube career? Potentially, depending on how the fight goes. And although everyone is pretty much brushing the idea of Logan winning aside, it seems Engel believes there is a chance he pulls off an upset and beats Floyd. He said, I quote, "To be clear, we have Floyd who is the best fighter, and Logan who is a new fighter. But Logan does have some size. He's many inches taller, many pounds heavier, and when you look at size and how that could affect the match, there's really no telling what the outcome could be. I do think that it will be competitive because Floyd has an incredible amount of skill, and he's going to bring that to the table, and Logan has size. It's like the David versus Goliath story, and we all know the outcome of that. But we don't know what the outcome will be here. Again, I don't know if I'd compare this to David versus Goliath necessarily, unless Logan is considered the underdog and somehow won, which he won't. No disrespect to the guy, but he's fighting Floyd. I mean, come on. Now, going back to how this could affect Logan's career, well, I mean, he's an entertainer. His face is his moneymaker as well as his personality. As you likely know, as is the case in any sports, but especially combat sports, sometimes injuries can occur. And said injuries can change an individual forever, especially when that individual is taking multiple blows to the head. We've seen it before in other boxers, the permanent brain damage, as well as the potential damage that can be done getting hit in the face repeatedly. So imagine what it's like to have one of the best to ever do it hit you in the face potentially multiple times. I'm not saying that Floyd is necessarily going to kill Logan in a literal way, but it's quite possible he lands enough shots that could potentially give Logan permanent brain damage and he may never be the same. Now, as far-fetched of an idea as this may seem to be, to no surprise, other fighters have chimed in, reiterating pretty much what I'm saying, expressing their concern for a regular guy, in this case Logan, to get into the ring with one of the best to ever do it. While speaking with TMZ Sports, Canelo Alvarez, who some claim is presently considered the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, he appears to feel the same way. Aside from the fact that he feels the fight is disrespectful to the sport of boxing in the first place, he went on to invite both Jake and Logan to a sparring match so they understand how serious the fight game is. He said, I quote, "I truly believe that it's a lack of respect. It's all based on money. It's all about money. I'm focused right now on other projects, I have other stuff going on. I would invite them over for a sparring session so they truly know what it's all about. It's all about money and I don't agree with it. I don't agree that people who are basketball players, who are YouTubers get licenses. This is a very risky sport, so if they're going out there, it's risky." And it's not like Canelo doesn't have experience fighting Floyd, as Mayweather handed Canelo his first and only professional loss to date back in 2013. On top of that, we clearly saw what happened to Nate Robinson at the hands of Jake Paul, who although people absolutely despise the guy, he could clearly fight. But did he prove much by getting into the ring with an inexperienced, retired basketball player? No, but this just further proves the point that someone with little to no experience shouldn't fight someone with years of experience. You guys see what I'm getting at now? Now, Canelo is definitely right when he says it's both disrespectful to the sport and all about the money. But with that being said, it's also quite possible Mayweather uses Logan as an example to prove Canelo's point. Aside from it being all about the money, which we know Floyd can never have enough of, I understand why it's seen as disrespectful to the sport. You have one of the greatest of all time going up against a guy with a 0-1 record. It just doesn't make any sense when you think of it from a boxing perspective. But clearly this has nothing to do with boxing as much as it does money. And let me tell you, the money is definitely there, with claims that Logan is making a minimum of $10 million. So you can only imagine what Floyd is being guaranteed. But aside from that, as I said before, Floyd may see this as an opportunity to not only introduce a younger audience to the boxing world, but to prove how tough of a sport it really is. Maybe he doesn't knock Logan out in the first round, and instead decides to play around with him a bit, almost like a cat playing with its food. And to no surprise, the more shots Logan takes, well, the worse off he'll likely be. Now that's not to say that if Floyd breaks Logan's nose, he won't be able to make YouTube videos ever again. Of course he will, he'll just look a little bit different for the time being. And there's no doubt that Logan is a tough guy growing up competing in combat sports and overall just being built like an athlete. I'm sure he could handle his own, but against Floyd Mayweather, that's a different story. Now it's not like he's fighting Tyson, who would ultimately end his life. But Mayweather definitely has some power and a lot of technique, and it is possible when all is said and done, Logan ends up with a broken jaw. Again, doesn't necessarily end his YouTube career, but it would certainly make creating content much, much tougher. Especially doing his podcast, Impulsive, with his mouth wired shut. And just to be clear, I'm hoping both these men leave the ring uninjured, as I genuinely do like them both and wouldn't wish harm upon anyone. However, the reality is, Logan may need to take a few days or weeks away from YouTube after his fight, assuming between the beating he takes and the amount of work he puts in prior to the fight, he's just gonna want some time off. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's safe to say as long as Logan isn't too severely injured, his YouTube career will be just fine. However, it is a combat sport and you never know what could happen. Now let me know your thoughts on this one down below. For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. What if Krampus was real in 2020? Lucky Swordsman said, I killed my paralysis demon, what you think is gonna happen? I mean, if you could kill a demon while you're like awake but sleeping physically, I don't know, bro, I think Krampus should be a little scared of you. Especially if you got that shotty ready to go. America! I'm just kidding, I don't know where you're from, but I like to assume because I'm half American that all Americans they all have guns. Which I don't have one because I'm in Canada. But if I was in America, I'm kidding. Famous Porcupine said, don't give 2020 any more ideas. I think 2020 is going to do what it does, so I wouldn't be too concerned. But we'll see. Also, it's very possible that by the time you guys see this video, it's 2021. So I won't give 2021 any more ideas. YouTube_boxing6007 said, y'all should cover Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. Well, you know what? This is just a great time to plug my personal channel where I will be covering that. So come check out my YouTube channel. Anyways, guys, that's all for this one. I've been your host, Jared Bronstein, and we'll see you soon.